Every sport around the world has competitors who are hated by fans. F1 has had its fair share of drivers who have been known to be quite unpopular amongst us F1 fans. So in today's video, I will be looking at the top 10 most hated drivers in Formula 1 history. And this, just to be clear, is my opinion. If you do feel different, then you can comment your thoughts in the comment section below. Just before we head into the video, I would appreciate it if you haven't subscribed yet, smash that button so I can reach my next target of 150 subscribers. If you do subscribe, then you are helping this channel and me grow and keep the videos flowing, as I can't do it without you guys. Apologies for the long intro, guys, so without further ado, let's get into the top 10 most hated drivers in Formula 1 history. Number 10. Elly Irvine. My fellow countryman, who is unfortunately on this list, comes in at number 10. Elly Irvine has courted controversy throughout his F1 career, but things got off to an unpromising start after he incurred the wrath of Ayrton Senna and his millions of fans for unlapping himself from the race leader during his Grand Prix debut in Suzuka in 1993. And this is where Irvine gets most of his hate. As we all know, if you cross Senna, then unfortunately the whole country of Brazil will detest you. Never frightened to speak his mind during and after his F1 career, Irvine appears an arrogant kind of fella in the minds of many F1 fans. He still continues to court controversy from calling Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso $1 million babies on Virgin Media in 2007. Number 9. Andrea Cesaris. Such was Andrea Cesaris' penchant for causing accidents that James Hunt called him an embarrassment to himself. De Cesaris gained such a reputation for causing accidents and ruining the races of others that he gained the nickname Andrea the Crashist. Things eventually came to a head in 1985 when he was sacked by Ligier after a massive accident at the Australian Grand Prix. Not disheartened, the Italian continued to prove a backfield menace for 9 more seasons before retiring to the relief of fellow drivers and fans alike at the end of 1994. Number 8. Nigel Mansell. There is no question that Nigel Mansell was one of the bravest and most exciting drivers of his generation. Yet the biggest criticism that many F1 fans had for him was that he was, well, too boring. His reputation for being a moaner was perhaps unwarranted, but part of the reason why he left Ferrari. The final straw came at the 1990 British Grand Prix when he discovered that his car had been swapped for teammate Alain Prost's following a complaint by the Frenchman that Mansell had the superior car. Number 7. Ayrton Senna. This is perhaps a controversial entry at number 7, but then again, Ayrton Senna was a controversial driver. Arguably the greatest of all time, and with many more fans in F1 than otherwise, Senna was still not everybody's cup of tea, especially if you were an Alain Prost fan. During his tumultuous title battles with the Frenchman, Senna often challenged the authority of the FIA president Jean-Marie Balestre on a number of issues, including the infamous pole position placement at Suzuka in 1990. But for this reason alone, and for a great many F1 fans, he is still quite simply the greatest. Number 6. Lance Stroll. When Lance Stroll first entered Formula 1, there was a lot of hatred towards the young Canadian driver, as many believed, and me included, that he only got a seat at Williams because his dad was investing in the team. I feel after that decent 2020 season performance that things have died down, and people now can see Stroll as a driver fit to compete in the most popular motorsport in the world. It will be interesting to see how the Canadian will do with his new teammate, 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. I do think the Canadian has a chance to beat the German in the 2021 season. Number 5. Nelson Piquet. The second Brazilian entry on this list of lovable villains, Nelson Piquet was the embodiment of Latino fire. Not afraid to speak his mind, he despairingly labelled fellow Brazilian Senna the Sao Paulo taxi driver, and also had his share of run-ins with Williams' teammate Nigel Mansell. But perhaps the greatest example of Piquet's explosive temper came at the 1982 German Grand Prix, when he launched into Alessio Salazar after colliding with the Chilean when leading the race.
Eine saublöde Aktion von Salazar gewesen. Ein Fahrer, der überrundet wird, behindert den Führenden. Und das wird sich Nelson Piquet sicherlich nicht gefallen lassen. Das ist ja wirklich unglaublich, was sich Salazar jetzt geleistet hat. Haben Sie das gesehen? Unglaublich. Also, ich verstehe.
Number 4. Lewis Hamilton. This inclusion so high up the list may be a controversial one again, but hear me out. Let's not forget that a lot of people disliked the 36-year-old early in his career, as he came off quite cocky and arrogant. Even people like Nigel Mansell in 2011 as saying that Hamilton has an attitude problem, while Sir Jackie Stewart branded Hamilton as arrogant. Up against two-time world champion Fernando Alonso, Hamilton came within a whisker of winning the title in his first year in F1 during a season of infighting between the two drivers. Hatred toward the Englishman reached new lows when a minority of Spanish fans racially abused Hamilton and his family during a testing session at Barcelona the following season, and again in Brazil later in that year. Number 3. Alain Prost. It's hard to put Senna in the top 10 without having his old adversary Alain Prost alongside him. After all, they were inseparable for a long part of their F1 careers, and not in a good way. Naturally, Senna fans of the time and much of the Brazilian population had what can only be described as hatred for the Frenchman. But Prost was also unpopular in many circles due to the criticism of his own team. After pushing Senna all the way in 1990, Prost was sacked before the final race of the 1991 season. Number 2. Fernando Alonso. Sticking with the theme of an arrogant F1 driver, only Fernando Alonso incites as much debate as Lewis Hamilton on many F1 forums. As a double world champion, Alonso was perhaps entitled to have a modicum of cocky self-assurance, but even Ferrari president Luca Di Montemolo felt the Spaniard needed to put down a peg or two after publicly criticising the team after the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's not forget that he was also accused of being involved in the McLaren 2007 scandal and also 2009 Renault Singapore scandal. But it will be interesting to see how he will do at Renault in 2021. And finally, at number 1, we have Michael Schumacher. If fans were tired of Vettel's success in F1's racing back in the early 2000s, they were switching off in the droves as Schumacher and Ferrari dominated for 5 successive seasons. Schumacher was loved by a lot of fans, but there were still many who disliked the German. Some of his actions over the years have been dubbed unsportsmanlike. For example, in 1994, when Schumacher and Hill were battling at the front for the lead, it seemed like Schumacher turned into Hill and tried to take the Brit out.
Out goes Schumacher! Damon Hill only has to keep going to be world champion. But can he keep going?
It's always a bowl of cherries.
He knows in his heart of hearts that it is all over.
But
also in the finale in the 1997 season, which again was a similar situation to the last, with Schumacher and this time Jacques Villeneuve fighting at the front for the lead. Schumacher then went onto the gravel, which meant he was out as he couldn't restart his car. Villeneuve had minor damage, but was able to get home and win his first driver's title.
Gear shift problem because Villeneuve is all over him. Look, he's going through. Oh yes. I don't think.
Out goes Michael Schumacher.
That didn't work. That didn't work, Michael. You hit the wrong part of him, my friend. I don't think that will cause Villeneuve a problem.
Michael Schumacher out now.
The FIA then decided, after looking at the footage of Schumacher, to disqualify the German from that year's driver standings. These incidents put a bit of a bad name on Schumacher, as it showed he was willing to play dirty to win championships. That was the top 10 most hated drivers in Formula 1. If you do indeed disagree with any of my choices, then feel free to comment your thoughts, as I'd like to hear what my audience thinks. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys, but for now, it's goodbye.